Have you ever felt held back by fear? Perhaps self-doubt crept in and told you that you weren't worthy, or perhaps you should just take the safe route and not push forward on some of those bigger dreams, those goals, those visions that you have for your life. When we go through these experiences, many times we can leave ourselves second guessing or even wondering what could have been. Well, in this episode, we're going to uncover my 3-part framework that helps you turn self-doubt into a superpower so that you can confidently walk forward regardless of the fear that you feel, knowing that self-doubt is just an indicator of success to come. Listen in. Hello, welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I'm your host. Well, if you've ever allowed self-doubt to defeat you from moving forward on your bigger dreams and your goals, you're not alone. In fact, 90% of us don't listen to that inner intuition, and we allow fear to run rampant inside of our minds. And fear has been what's kept us alive for thousands of years. So of course we're going to have it. And of course we're going to listen. Fear is that reminder of all of the moments in our lives where we came close to a brush with death. But that's not always the case. And sometimes our mind doesn't know the difference between a true danger and a risk. So if you've ever felt like taking a risk, maybe taking that bigger leap or jumping out in faith, then I want you to listen in, because self-doubt is really an indicator that you are on the right path. If you're questioning whether or not you could potentially fail, if you're questioning whether or not you have it in you to carry it forward or bring forth or have the tenacity, the strength, the fortitude to see through your dreams, then I want to tell you that on the other side of that is achievement. But when we allow for self-doubt to be there and hold us back, then we're not allowing ourselves to be empowered, to be strong, to fight back and push forward. See, it's there for a reason. It's there to keep us safe. It's there to remind us that we have a life and our life is precious. If we didn't have self-doubt, much like if we didn't have pain receptors, well, we'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't we? So we have to look at it from a perspective of thanks, of gratitude, of understanding that self-doubt is really just there as a gut check to make sure that we're on the right path. But it's not there to necessarily be a deterrent. What happens is when we confuse the two and we blend fear with confidence, we don't understand whether we should be afraid, whether we should run, whether we should stay stuck, or whether all of those dreams that we have are all for naught. Maybe we are just seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. Maybe it is just pipe dreams, waiting for our big moment to come. But if you never step out, you'll never know. So how do you take self-doubt, imposterism, and turn it into motivation? Well, I want to dive in a little bit more, because what I remember when I was in corporate, I was really thinking about what did I want my next move to look like? And number one, I'd already faced a lot of fear in my life. I've already faced overcoming challenges and obstacles and trauma. And I knew that I had it in me to continue to carry forward because I was still here on this planet. But every time we face a new challenge, sometimes we don't remember the strength that it took to come through the other side. And we forget to thank ourselves for having the strength, the tenacity, the resilience, and what we learned along the way. If you want to think about self-doubt, I want you to think about as a reminder to yourself of who you are, where you've come from, what you've gone through, and what you're capable of. Let it be the indicator in your life that you do have everything it takes, and remind yourself of what you have already accomplished. Many times we do not take into account our own progress. We look at where we are and where we want to be, and we allow the gap in between to consume us. And we start to whirl in our mind of all of the things that could potentially go wrong, and we catastrophize our outcome. Well, if any of the guests on this show have ever been an indicator to you that you can succeed against all odds, then I encourage you to go back and listen to a few different stories. Because the whole premise is that we can do hard things. You can do hard things. And many times, if we truly knew what was involved or what the stakes were, we wouldn't step our foot into that pool of water knowing that it would be a little bit more tricky, a little bit more rough than we anticipated. And maybe that's a good thing. And so if you look at it this way, fear is just facing uncertainty. Your brain doesn't know what's going to happen. It can't foresee the future. It can only look backwards. And in that journey, on your looking backwards, what are you telling yourself? Are you reminding yourself of all of the times that you failed in your life? Or are you looking at them as a success, a stepping stone, a way forward to where you are today? When I finally made that leap and left corporate, I know that I was terrified and I had every reason to doubt whether I would be successful or not. But I also had every reason to tell myself that I was capable of so much more. And when other people came with their own doubts around my own success or whether I was making the right move, I could be there to remind myself that they didn't know the things that I have gone through. Only I did. And that's true for you. Only you know the things that you have gone through in your life. Only you know what it took to get where you are today. And only you can carry yourself forward into the next realm. So what is that going to look like for you? Are you going to be a fighter? Or are you going to allow self-doubt, lack of confidence, and imposterism to get in your way? Remember, these things are here to keep you safe, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It simply means a gut check to make sure you're on the right path. And I'm telling you, you are. So I have a simple framework that you can leverage and remind yourself anytime the self-doubt or imposterism or fear starts to creep in, that you can remind yourself that you have the tools necessary to combat it. And I call this the win confidence framework. It's a brain-based model to create sustainable confidence and motivate your actions. Why does win work? Well, win taps into the reward center of your brain. This is the dopamine-driven area of your mind where motivation lives. And when we have motivation, we can conquer fear. We can conquer anything. And the whole key is to create repetitive, rewarding, and resilient confidence. The first part is W, to wire your identity. And identity-based confidence has longer lasting impact on your self-belief or your self-efficacy over outcome-based. So when you're using language around I am versus what I did, you are owning who you are in full force. You can start to recognize your identity, who you are, what you stand in, what your core values are in such a way where this becomes what you represent. And areas that you can focus on are developing self-awareness around values, triggers, and core strengths, reframing your self-talk from external validation to internal I already am. And using present-based identity statements. I am a leader who versus I want to become. And I want you to ask yourself this. Who am I when I am most aligned with my power? The second part is I initiating micro wins. Every small success triggers dopamine drops, which just further increases your motivation, overcomes fear, and reinforces habits, positive habits, and loops that you are creating for yourself. Think of it this way: set small, achievable, stretch goals. Take consistent, low resistant action. This is called dopamine stacking. Celebrate micro wins. Whether they're public or private recognition, you're celebrating effort over perfection. And the final part is N, normalizing self-leadership. Confidence strengthens through repetition, integration, and modeling, especially when your behaviors match your beliefs. Here you can build routines that anchor confidence, your voice, your body, your boundaries. You can surround yourself with reinforcements, environments, and people who echo your power. And you can reflect regularly. Where did I lead myself well today? Ask yourself, how can I train my brain to expect self-leadership as a norm? When we capitalize on confidence, we enable ourselves to move past barriers and blocks with greater ease. And what we're really wanting to do is remind ourselves of why we're here, what our purpose is, and extending beyond that, what we're here to do, how we're here to serve. Removing ourselves from the equation, but honoring ourselves at the same time. Remember, it's not about the number of deeds, it's how you were able to pursue it, get through it, and honor your core values. I recently had a client who was laid off from a longtime role that he had been carrying, and it was quite devastating for him. And in those moments, we had to really think about, how do we increase confidence? How do we increase self-efficacy and belief in the efforts that he was going to take moving forward? And in this process, he started to outline new strategies to reach out to his network, to create connections and referrals for himself. And not only that, he created several opportunities for interviews and ways that he could connect with different companies. But the greatest challenge that he faced was deciding which company would be a right fit for him. He had historically struggled as a quiet leader and lacked some of the self-confidence due to traumas that he had experienced in his previous role. And what we had to do was uncover all of the wonderful things that he had already been doing, all of the things that he truly knew how to do well, regardless of whether his past employer recognized it or not. This enabled him to make a choice in relation to the right company that would be the right fit for him. And when he did, he was able to then walk into that role with greater ease and greater confidence, regardless of those little voices that sometimes creep into our mind that tell us, maybe you're not good enough. If you've ever had that moment for yourself, I want you to remind yourself, number one, what have you overcome in your life and what have you come through to the other side? And number two, who are you? Why are you here? And what does someone else see in you that perhaps you don't see yourself? Sometimes we are our worst critics, our greatest judge, and we speak to ourselves in such a manner that we would never speak to another individual. So why do we allow ourselves to do this? Because our mind is consistently churning on thought after thought after thought that holds us back and tells us that maybe we're unworthy of success. And so we self-sabotage and we allow these different ideas to get in the way. As a reminder for yourself, I want you to consider what types of habits you're going to build to increase your confidence. And when I say habits, think about ways that you can pour back into your cup. When we're running low on energy, we're low on fumes, that's when we feel the worst. And when we feel the worst, we think the worst. We think the worst about ourselves, our capabilities, and even our outlook in general on life or our day or our career. So, how are you pouring back into your cup? The first step is really considering what boundaries you need to make energetically. When you feel good and you set good boundaries, healthy boundaries for yourself, you're automatically increasing your self efficacy because you're putting yourself above whatever else it is. And when we can do this, we're honoring our lives in a greater way. And then I want you to consider, what are those little things that you can start stacking into your life that are going to increase your emotional regulation and really start taking into account how you're protecting your time and your energy. Are you working out? Are you drinking a glass of water? I know that many times when we're dehydrated, that's one of my big things, we don't even recognize our state of mind. If you simply drink more water, you might start to feel a little bit better, and that might impact your outlook and the things that you're wanting to accomplish in your life. And number 3, how are you celebrating? How are you rewarding yourself? How are you honoring yourself? And I don't simply mean by going out and purchasing something. What I mean is holistically telling yourself, hey, you did a great job. Hey, I was really proud of you today. You stood up for yourself and you said what was on your mind and it mattered. Hey, I like the way that you handled that challenge today. Do you ever tell yourself these things? Nobody else is really telling us sometimes the things that we need to hear, and we need to be the ones that can tell it to ourselves. And when you start implementing these little practices, I want you to consider what changes in your life. What starts to take place? Do you start to notice a difference? So I want to pose to you, how can you start to take self-doubt for yourself and turn it into action? What are some things that you can tell yourself to remind yourself and to say thank you? Thank you, self-doubt. Thank you, ego. Thank you, imposterism. I'm all right. Thank you for giving me that gut check. I think we're good to go now. So let's go do it. Anytime that you listen to a successful speaker or someone who's a performer or even an athlete, many times they have nervousness, they have anxiety before they step out into the limelight. But when they do, they're fulfilling their purpose. And I ask you, just because you have nerves and anxiety doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. It simply means that you are being destined, you're being groomed for something greater. So think about it for yourself. Take into account what's going on inside of you so that you can turn it around and make a mindset shift for yourself. We all are scared, but it's what we do with it that propels us forward. Let fear be your fuel and let your desires dictate your destiny. Thanks so much for joining us today. Stay tuned for another episode next week where we have another amazing guest joining us. Until then, stay brave and stay confident in you. Thank you for tuning in to the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.